Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 3 of 7 podcast. We have an absolutely amazing story to share with you on today's episode. This is with a friend of mine named Dash. Dash has a story pretty much like no other. You just have to listen to this show in its entirety to understand what Dash has been through, what he has accomplished, what he has survived throughout his life and throughout his journey. Just to hit a few of the points really quick, Dash was born pretty much homeless in Hawaii, grew up on the streets, and had a really, really difficult childhood. He was adopted. He joined the Navy. He was a Tier 1 operator in the Navy, with Naval Special Warfare. Toward the, middle of his career, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. He had one of his lungs removed, which you'll hear from Dash's story. It's a lot more complex than that. He really goes through it in detail. After he survived his battle with lung cancer here recently, he was also diagnosed with the coronavirus, and Dash actually survived coronavirus and with one lung and battled through this, and he walks us through that and what it was like in that part of his journey. So it's really just 3 separate furnaces of adversity that he went through that are almost, it's almost unbelievable what Dash has been able to come through. And he's maintained his faith in God. He has a beautiful family, 2 sons, an awesome wife, and is just an amazing individual. This is a long episode, guys, but I wanted it to be that way. I wanted to hear Dash's full story, and that's what we have for you guys here today. I hope you really enjoy it. Now, time for a little housekeeping. Today's episode is brought to you by 2 sponsors. We're so happy to have these 2 sponsors on our team. The first sponsor that we have for today is called Natural Rapport. So you guys want to talk about body, soul, and spirit today, right? That's why you're tuning in to the 3 of 7 podcast. Well, a big part of my body, soul, and spiritual health are my animals. So we have 2 dogs here at my house. They are pretty much our children because we don't have human children. So we care for our animals as we care for ourselves. So we are very, very conscious of what we feed them and the products that we use to take care of them. Natural Rapport is a company that makes Uncomplicated Pet Essentials. These products from Natural Rapport are pretty much as close to natural as you can possibly get. They're all made in the USA. All the treats, you've got everything from chicken jerky to beef treats. These are all 100% human grade meat. It's just a really safe way to, reward your animals at home. It's all that we use. They also have grooming products. They have shampoos, ear wipes. They've got the whole 9 yards, anything that you need to take care of your best friend. That's what I call these. My dogs, they run with me every single day. They're here to greet me when I walk in the house. They love me unconditionally. And it's just for me, it's a huge part of that nourishment of body, soul, and spirit is having them here for me each and every day and having them when I go out on the trail along with me for that journey. So if you guys are as particular about the way you take care of your animals as I am, please check out Natural Rapport at naturalrapport.com. That's naturalrapport.com. Naturalrapport.com. Promise you won't be disappointed in their products. They are awesome. Dogs love them, and they're safe. Thank you, Natural Report, for sponsoring 307 Podcast. Our next sponsor for today is Exoskin. You guys have heard me talk about Exoskin. I am a believer in Exoskin products. They make the premier outdoor fitness apparel on the market today. Every one of their products, from their socks to their shorts to their tights to their shirts, these things are quality. They are made in America down to the very yarn, and they function flawlessly. They function in ways that other fitness apparel brands they just are not even on the same level with Exoskin. Exoskin products, it's a proprietary fabric that actually channels moisture away from the skin, which in turn cuts down on chafing, and all the issues that you have with other apparel brands. Another thing, Exoskin fabric has active copper fiber woven into the fabric, which actually cuts down on odor-causing bacteria. It allows you to wear these clothing items for multiple training evolutions without them stinking really, really bad. So that's another thing I love about them. You can multiple runs in the same shorts, shirt. They don't stink. They last for years and years. And we love Exoskin. They've supported us from day one. And they're just great people. So if you guys want to purchase some Exoskin, please use our pro code. It's 3 of 7, the number 3 of the number 7. That will give you 20% off of your purchase, and go to exoskin.us to order your fitness apparel. That's exoskin.us. Thanks, Exoskin, for all of your support. All right, guys, now here's Dash. I hope you enjoy this one. If you are listening to 307 Podcast on a regular basis, please go and give us a review on iTunes. This helps promote our show, and it helps get our show in front of people that otherwise would never hear about it or never find it. So if you guys listen, please take 2 seconds of your time, go to the Apple app, leave us a review. That's all I ask. That's all I'm asking from you guys. So appreciate it. Enough said.
You know, you got to file for disability and put in all your paperwork. And I was like, I feel horrible putting in for this stuff because I can walk and I can breathe and I can laugh. You know, I'm still in pain.
Yep.
You guys are in way more, you're way more disabled than I am. And that's when like reality really hit me. And there's this old CMC SEAL who's in a wheelchair. And he came up to me and smacked me upside the head at Nyko. We were sitting in the running room and just boom, smacked me in the back of the head. And he's like, and of course he was swearing. And he had a big old shoe in.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, what did he say? It's something about like don't take pity on me and put it on yourself. He's like, I'm not, and he drew this line. He's like, you look at me and you see someone disabled. He's like, did you ask me if I was disabled?
Dash, welcome to the 307 Podcast, my man.
Dude, it's an honor to be here. Thanks so much for reaching out. It's so good to hear from you.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the honor is all ours, Dash. You know, you're one of those guys, man, that like, when I first heard your story, I don't know your whole story, but I know bits and pieces of it. And when I first heard it, I think Brandon's the one that kind of told me about you. And it was like, it was almost unbelievable. I was like, really? This dude has really been through the ringer and been through some real, you know, furnaces of adversity, as I would call it. And not until I got to know you and got to know who you were and your background and your faith and just the type of person that you are, like it took that for me to really like, okay, this guy's legit, man. So, I mean, I I'm not sure where to begin or how to begin this interview other than beginning it at the beginning, man, because I think that's kind of where your story begins, dude. And just the name Dash, where did that come from, man?
Well, again, thank you again so much for having me. I think if you're okay with it, the most positive and productive way to start this maybe in prayer.
I love it,
If,
man.
yeah, so if we can do a little prayer and um, hope the Lord speaks through us, and maybe someone that listens to this, if my testimony rings true to anybody else, if I can share with them some stuff that I went through that might help them, and all glory given to God. So yeah, it's
100%, brother.
your podcast, man. Maybe you can lead us in prayer, and we'll go from there.
I'd be honored, brother. So, Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for my time here with Dash today. I thank you for the fellowship that we have shared in the past and the fellowship that we will share here today in the future. That we have as brothers. And I pray that you would bless him, that you'd bless his family, his children, his wife, his relationships, all that he puts his hands to. Lord Jesus, I ask you right now that it would prosper, Lord Jesus Christ, and that you would guide him, protect him, give him wisdom and understanding, not only during this interview today, but in all that he does throughout the rest of his life. We thank you for allowing us to be children of yours. We thank you for allowing us to serve you. And Lord Jesus, we thank you for dying on the cross for our sins. We love you, Father. We give you all the glory and all the praise and all the honor, for you are worthy. And Jesus, we pray these things in your mighty name. Thank you.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Yes. Now we can start.
Hey, let's rock and roll, brother.
Oh. So yeah, my name's Dash Wong. I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. Um, and yeah, I don't know where do you want to go with that?
Well, I mean, so I don't know the whole story. There's a story behind your name though, right, Dash?
Oh yeah.
That's the story, that because I've never heard that whole story coming from you, brother. Like, I've heard bits and pieces of it from Brandon and other people. Like, I want to hear your version of that story of how you got the name Dash, man. And I think from what I've heard, it's awesome, dude.
Well, thanks again. I'm just moving because as you remember, I got two little bags of weeds that run around this place like crazy. So I don't want someone jumping in the camera all naked.
We're going to talk about them here in a little bit.
Well, yeah. So it started off in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was born. My father was in the Navy. He met my mother. My mom was an exotic dancer at the time, and as you know, Navy guys hanging out at strip clubs. I guess that's how that whole recipe happened. And then my mom had me. My dad wanted nothing to do with me, so he left my mom. And then my mom was left on her own with some pretty rough circumstances. So I was left at the hospital for a bit, and I was nicknamed by the nurses with a one line on my birth certificate. So they kind of hyphened my name as Dash. Um, my mom ended up coming back for me, which was a blessing, and I'm very thankful for that. She raised me till I was about 11. I lived with my real mom. But it was a different lifestyle than most children have. I mean, I grew up homeless on the streets of Waikiki. I worked at a cemetery as a kid, and I used to help maintain the grounds. And then in return, the graveyard keeper would allow me to pick flowers off the trees, not off the graves, but off the trees, like plumeria flowers and hibiscus flowers and whatnot. So I would string them up with fishing line and take it down to the tourists in Waikiki, and I'd sell it. And I did that for, gosh, a good part of 6 years, selling leis and making money. And all that money went to hot dogs and video games at the arcade, and it's all I really knew. My mom got arrested when I was maybe 10 by an undercover cop. And she told him about me and what bus stop I lived at, where I kind of congregated at the beaches. And I used to take showers on the beach. But the interesting thing about that was the norm of my life, right? I didn't feel disadvantaged. I didn't feel poor. I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong. It was just my way of life. I was actually pretty happy. I had some good friends, and I skateboarded a lot, body surfed. I was in the ocean probably 6, 7 times a day, either surfing or just being a kid. But once she got arrested, undercover cops found me, and that was terrifying because I'm a good kid. Like I wasn't, trying to get in trouble. Wasn't in any gangs or anything. But when I got arrested, I remember they put handcuffs on me, and it was like 8 o'clock at night, and I was standing on the streets of Waikiki, and they're like, "You need to come with me." And going into a cop car, then driving all the way to the other side of the island that I've never been on, then getting basically going to Child Protective Services and getting put in a foster home. And it wasn't until I got into a foster home that I realized like my whole life is about to change. Like this is something's not. It definitely took me out of my comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
and I was blessed to be adopted a year later by Andrew and Don, who's my foster parents or adopted parents, and they're the Wongs. So that's how I got the last name Wong. And so my full name is Dash Dong Wong, which is pretty. You can only imagine the amount of flack I got in the teens with that.
And it's such an epic story, dude. Like nobody else on earth has a freaking story that can match that, man. That is just so awesome, dude. And
it was surreal. It was totally surreal. But when I got adopted, I basically started the school in the 5th grade. So I knew how to read, but I wasn't at 5th grade level reading. I knew how to do math, and that was basically with money because that's all I dealt with. But so far behind the curve, and my parents were Asian. My foster parents were Asian, and they're so strict. Like academics is everything. So man, what a blessing! The Lord's always worked in my life and done some phenomenal things for me. And to be put in that environment where they could nourish me and educate me and bring me up to standards. I basically graduated high school with honors, had a 3.9 GPA, and I had a full or I had a package submitted to go to the Air Force Academy, signed by the governor. I went to Air Force JROTC. So I knew I was going to go into the military. I just didn't realize I was going to go into the Navy. So, but yeah, it was a roller coaster ride for sure. A lot of low points, especially being homeless, and I got put in like underground like fight stings where like other drug pimps and drug dealers would bring their kids over to like a hotel where we're staying, and us kids would have to fight each other, and they would bet on us. It's kind of like they bet on chickens or whatever. That all of this like it was weird. It's like all like this little compartmentalized parts of my life that I look back and reflect on it, not in a negative way, but just like, wow, I went through all of that and I ended up here. And I think the one thing that helped me was I was always positive. Like, life you can look at a problem in two different ways, negative or positive. It's your choice. And I always made the choice to see the good, even in the slums. Like life was good. I had food, or I had shelter, I had friends, I had someone to confide in. And I always felt like the Lord was there, but I never knew him. Like he was always in my life, but I had no idea who he was. So it's really cool to reflect back on the hardship of life, and I'm glad that I went through it. Only because I have such an appreciation for it. Like. But yeah, that's a kind of a long rant about my childhood.
no, man, and Dash, I talk about that story being awesome, and I mean that from a standpoint of it's awesome that you went through that. And now you are who you are today, because it's like you beat all odds, man. And that's why I say that story was awesome. It's not making light of the hardship or the things that you probably went through as a young man, or as a child. But what makes it so just motivating is that you are who you are today. You are just a powerful, powerful man of God. I from the first time you and I had a conversation on my back porch in Virginia, that was when I came to the realization. I was like, there's something about Dash that it's just special, man. It's so unique, and that's one of those moments. That was a powerful connection and a powerful moment in my life that I can vividly remember. And I think it's just because God has His hand on you, and He's had His hand on you probably, I know, since the beginning. And we talk a lot about the soul being where the battle is, like the mind, will, and the emotions. And coming up as a child and being in those types of environments, you know, how what you say the positivity is the main factor that allowed you to I guess maintain control or maintain a healthy soul, or your emotional side, your thought life. Give me some examples where that played in, maybe some stories where that kind of played in, and that positivity or whatever helped you through, a specific time when you were going through all that as a child, man. Can you remember any specific?
Uh, yeah, no, there were a lot of times. I'll give you one example. I remember being 9 years old, and we were in an apartment, and in this apartment they had all the drug lords and pimps in there with their kids, and all these kids were just rough. I mean, they were just they've been through probably the same or worse what I was going through. And we were standing in line in a hallway. I must have had 5 or 6 kids in front of me and a couple kids behind me, and we were going in pairs into the living room. And our job was to beat the living crap out of each other. And the last guy standing, he's done. He's done for the day. You don't have to fight anymore. You get put off the side. And I remember standing in this line, and the kid in front of me was terrified. He didn't want to go in there. We didn't want to fight. And I was kind of nervous. I didn't really understand like the extent of what was about to happen, but I knew I was going to have to defend myself. And I looked at this kid in the front. And I told him, I was like, "Hey, man, everything's going to be okay." I was like, "You don't got nothing to be afraid of." And it's empathy. I think perspective is one thing to have, right? Especially in challenging times. Your perspective can get you through it, but you can't get through things alone. The real reason you make or break is because you surround yourself by people that share the same values as you. But if nobody does, then you have to be that light in the darkness. And I was always that light, and I've always been extremely empathetic. My ability to put myself in other people's shoes to try to figure out what they're going through. It could be a double-edged sword too, because that can drag you down. But that's helped me out tremendously to build a relationship with someone in line that we're about to go into a rink and fight each other, and just to just share love and be like, "Dude, I understand what you're going through, and we're gonna get through this. It's gonna be okay." Um, I remember fighting this kid, and he was awful. He was just awful. Like, he had no guard. He had no ground skills, nothing. And I've been doing this for a couple of months. So I remember grabbing this kid by his collars as he's trying to swing at me, and I laid down on my back and I pulled him on top of me. And I just grabbed one of his hands and I just kind of directed him like, this hit me like, here, and we're on the ground rolling. And I basically gave up. I laid on the ground and like, "You got it. Like, this kid's just kicking my butt," when he wasn't. And we built such a relationship through that I think that's a key moment where it really changed my mind of like, nobody wants to be in these dark places. We kind of just got put in it, and we have to get through it. But to stand up and to be that bigger guy, to be a mentor to somebody, to be that light in the darkness, it kind of that's the key point that I look back into, like everything that I've gone through in the rest of my life, whether it be cancer or COVID or being forced to make to retire on a short notice. Like, these things could be extremely negative. You can downplay them. You can always ask, "Why me?" Or a lot of prayers when you're going through turmoil or hardship. You look at the Lord and you're like, "What are you doing?" And like, "Why are you doing this in my life?" And then you reflect back on like Moses when he had to lead all the people out of Pharaoh's grip, And that was hard times. I mean, 40 years lost in the desert, these guys all complain to Moses, like, why is God punishing us? Like, why is he putting through us if we're his chosen people? I reflect back on that now that I'm saved. I look back at everything I did, and it was all part of like being forged in the fire, right? Like, especially if you have the Holy Spirit, if you have the perspective of a heavenly kingdom, like, you can look at these problems as not so much why me, but more so what next. Like, what's next? How can I prepare myself? And that's what we do in the teams, right? When we're faced with problems or obstacles. I'm a SWIC, I'm not a SEAL, but spent a lot of times with SEALs and a lot of times overseas deployed with you guys, and we encounter vehicles down or casualties that we got to do extracts on. It's not, we don't downplay it as like, oh, then why is the world crumbling on us? It never happens, right? It's always what's next, how do we stabilize, how do we plan 3 moves ahead, how do we stay ahead of the enemy? And that's the same way to go about life. You got to stay focused, and you got to be positive, right? You can't dig yourself down in the dumps and just be like, oh, it's over. you know you're not going to make it.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen, man. If that's the attitude that you have, that's for sure. It's just, dude, it's so cool to me that empathy and that positivity was just, it's just part of you. It was just a part of you, even as a child. In those situations, it was just, it's woven within the fibers of your being. And, that's definitely a powerful thing, because most of us have to get taught those things, and we have mentors that teach us those things. But, you having it at such a young age, and what a powerful story that was that you shared, when you were in that fight, that battle with that other, young man, and you were guiding his punches because you had empathy for him, and you were developing that relationship, and then you sharing your courage with him and saying everything's going to be okay. I mean, that's unbelievable, dude. Like, this story needs to be told to the entire world, because I mean, you can't even you can't even believe stuff like this happens in the world, but then, to have a firsthand account of it and pull lessons out of it is just, the value is immeasurable. And moving forward from your childhood, Dash, when did you meet God, man? Or when did you get saved? Was that prior to going in the military, or after, man?
It was 2015 in August.
Okay. So we'll hit that then. I want you to walk me through from, you graduated high school, you did very well, and you thought you were going to go in the Air Force, and you ended up going to the Navy. I want to walk through that scenario all the way up to the point that you get saved, man. I want to keep it in that order if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I graduated high school. I was 17, and so my Air Force Academy package got submitted late, so I had to wait for the next class. So basically, I had to wait 6 months to go into the next class. And being in Hawaii and having the background that I had and knowing the people that I knew, I just really was done. Like, I did not want to be on the island anymore. I was excited to start a new chapter in my life. My foster dad was or my adopted father. I just call him dad, but he was a famous tattoo artist. And So basically, I was helping him run his shop, and I started at 14. I started shaving people's arms and shaving people's backs before my dad suited him up, and I was like, dude, this job sucks. Like, and my father wanted to build this empire up, right, and wanted to give it to me, and he's training me to like do stencil cutouts and trace and shade and do all this. And I kind of had a knack for art, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. Like, I did not want to tattoo people. I didn't
Yeah.
even like being tattooed. I was actually terrified of needles before I joined the Navy. And so anyway, I came home and I was like, yeah, I gotta wait 6 months to class up, and I'm just gonna go see what other options I have that are on the table. I'm gonna go talk to some Navy recruiters. The reason I did that is in high school I was part of it was like a Air Force Special Forces team, and basically we got together, long runs, ruck runs, pull up, push up contests, and we'd tie like this army rope bridge across the stream, and you had to like clip in and get across the rope. We do rappels off buildings, and I was like, this is fun. Like, I love the tight knit groups. I love being competitive. I love to win. And I was telling, and one of my best friends, who was he helped me run the Special Forces program in my senior year. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go become a SEAL. I'm gonna go to Buds. I'm gonna go class up. And I was like, wow, like why? Like that sounds cool, but like, why are you doing that? We should go to the Air Force. We did 4 years in Air Force, JROTC. It's like we got all this. You get promoted faster, and you get recommendations when you get to the academy. I was like, we're already set. We should do this. He's like, no, there's some pretty good options on the table. One was there was a huge incentive to make it through Buds, right?
Yep.
I think he was like, it was like $40,000 at the time. This was back in 2005.
Yep.
When they were doing that, and I was like, man, I've never seen that kind of money in my entire life. And I was like, they're going to give you all that money just to like graduate? I was like, that sounds awesome. Mm-hmm. So I went down to Navy Recruiter, went with him, and it was like you had to be there at 4 a.m. And there's all these kids. We're all lined up, and it's basically there was a SEAL there. They had SDV Team 1, and the SEAL came out. I forgot his name, and he just run kids through the gamut. We had everyone there from like 26-year-old guys to like 17. Me being like, I was 120 pounds. I looked like Captain America before he got the serum. Just all shriveled up, just scrawny dude, and standing in line with all these like meatheads, man. Like these guys knew what they're getting into, and they were just ready to crush. And I was like, whoa, this is a level I've never seen. The testosterone was there, the competitiveness, and I was like, dude, I'm going against like full-grown men. Like I don't even know what it means to be a man yet, but I'm going against full-grown men, and I loved it. And I smoke checked everybody, and it was, I forget what they call, like Indoc, or it's kind of like how you have dive motivators when you're in boot camp.
Yeah.
And you go to dive mode and pull phase, whatever. It's like that. But basically they were seeing if you even had what it took to qualify.
Yep.
So I did it. I crushed the swims and the pull-ups and push-ups, and I just smoke checked everybody. And they're like, wow. And the part that kind of knocked me back was I got permanent tubes in my ears, so I can't dive. So because of my medical screening, I was not allowed to go under a Buds contract. So I went SWIC. It was the next best thing. And I was like, dude, those guys are groovy. Like driving around cool boats and shooting big guns and taking care of the bros. Like I'm all about that. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And that was that. I signed the papers pretty much that next week. I signed my papers, and I was underage. So my adopted father had to sign my paperwork, and they were pissed. Like they wanted me to go to the chair force. They knew it was safe and kosher. They knew I wanted to go into like Intel or like some nerdy thing with computers. And I was like, no, I'm going to the Special Forces program. And they're like, damn, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna pause you real quick because there's a lot of similarities I think between your story and then my story when I went and decided I wanted to become a SEAL. Same thing with me, dude. They were doing that $40,000 basically bonus if you graduated Buds, and same as you, I thought, man, if I can graduate this program and they give me $40,000, dude, I'm gonna be set for life. Like I was going around telling my buddies, like, man, $40,000. I never even heard of. I didn't even know that people existed that had that much money in their bank account all at one time. So that was a huge driving factor, man. That's pretty cool that you said that, because I felt the same way about that. I mean, we definitely weren't dirt poor, but we didn't have a ton of money ever growing up. Right. So, but
it's funny because I remember when I graduated boot camp, just straight out of boot camp, you go to A school before you class up, and I remember you get a couple paychecks, right?
Yeah.
So 8 weeks or whatever. I remember seeing $1,200 in my checking account. I've never had a checking account. Yeah. $1,200 in there, Chad. And I instantly got on a payphone. I'm in Great Lakes. I went to a payphone and put my coins in. I called all my friends from Hawaii, and I was like, dude, I'm rich. During this boot camp, it was the easiest thing in the world. I got $1,200. Went straight to the mall, bought a skateboard, bought new shoes, and I was like, dude, I've got so much, man. I'm gonna get a hot dog. I'm gonna get a cheeseburger. I can get whatever I want.
I know it, man. I'm right there with you. I went through that same process, dude. It's pretty hilarious how similar our mindsets were going through that, man. And so, real quick, too, I want to explain to the listeners what SWIC is, because I think a lot of people are familiar with what SEALs are. And SWIC, I want to definitely get your viewpoint on or your expertise, because that is what you did, Dash. And for me, I'll go ahead and give you my piece on it. These SWIC guys, they are they spend a lot of time in some super harsh conditions. I mean, the job that you guys perform, dude, when we would in training or down range, I always felt bad for you guys, because I was like, these guys are getting hammered, son. I mean, for hours and hours and hours. So I got the utmost respect for the SWIC teams and what you guys do, and give us your take on it real quick, and then we'll push forward with your story, man.
So SWIC stands for, it's SWCC. It stands for Special Warfare Combatant Craft Crewmen. And basically, we come from a long tradition of the from Vietnam, all the river rats basically that patrolled on the PBR boats back in the day. And the reason they stood up SWIC was because of, Army SF, SEALs, and Marine Recon. They needed a way to be infilled, but they also needed a platform that could provide overwatch and security. On the rivers, they're just getting attacked left and right, and all these special forces groups had such a niche of what they were going to fight, and there are certain mission sets they were doing, that to add on a time platform and heavy weapons, it just was too much. We were overtask saturated. So they started up SWIC to kind of break up the responsibilities between all the forces, and we became the maritime infill and extract platform for mainly SEALs, because we were named Army, CAG, Spartans, everybody. We've been infilling and working together, and it's not just boats, right? Like it's definitely evolved over the years. So when I started in 2006, it was like these old bust meter ribs with like these sponsons on the side of them, and now we're operating high speed crafts. We got 200-ton captain's license. We're taking out MERS ships, and we're basically we drive MRAPs and Hiluxes and side by sides and dirt bikes. And the way I like to look at it is there's a 160th in the Army. They're known as like the most badass helicopter pilots in the world, bar none. And these guys get special forces operators where they need to go, when they need to go, on time and on target. And they'll never quit, they'll never fail, because that's just the way they were trained. Well, we're the exact same, except we have a different platform, right? So anything on the water or anything that moves on land is kind of our expertise. And
that's solid.
I always thought about it as such an honor to serve. Yeah, such an honor to serve the brothers. To feel like you're a piece of the team, to know that you can contribute, to make other people's lives just a little bit easier in a hostile environment. I dug it. It was the bomb.
Yeah, man. You guys had a extremely tough job. You guys, every time I've worked with you guys, obviously with SWIC guys extensively, always very professional, always squared away, always knew their gear, knew their boats, knew the platform inside and out, and reliable, and you guys were awesome, and got the utmost respect again for all that you and all your brothers in SWIC do for the SEAL teams, and for everybody else, man. It's an amazing job. Anybody out there looking for a good time in the Navy, and you think you're hard, that's a good option for you.
Your ASVAB doesn't have to be as high as a SEAL. You can be at the 55 level.
So you move, you get your contract signed, man, and you obviously go to boot camp. You get your $1,200. You go down there to that mall. I forget what that mall was called in Chicago, man. I can't even remember.
Gosh, this is where my Navy career gets insane. It's insane.
What happens, man?
when I tell people this story, they like, command master chiefs where I sit down and have a beer with them. I'm telling my startup from boot camp to where I made it. They're like, how did that happen? Like, doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And it all started the day I graduated boot camp. And I don't know if you can reminisce on that, but it's a Thursday. You do your graduation ceremony. You guys all march down. You get the color guard and flags. On Friday, everyone wakes up super early. You get your sea bags packed, and you have to go to the bus. And basically, the bus takes you from boot camp, drives you across the street to basically they call it an A school, but it's where they kind of just train you up on like fire safety or something to hold you off before you fly out to California. Well, I didn't do any of that. I thought it was super cool and special. So on Friday, me and my buddies, there was 5 of us in my division. There were 5 of us that went to Divemo. So there was 2 EOD guys, or 2 guys with the EOD contract, 2 guys with the SEAL contract. I was the only slick guy. And we wake up Friday morning. We're like, no, we're not riding on the bus. We got Divemo to go to. So we go to the pool and we leave all our stuff, and no one's there. Like the whole entire base is just a ghost town. So we come back to our sea bags, and our entire division is gone. There's no buses. No one's there waiting for us. And so we're just 5 dudes like twiddling our thumbs, like, well, what do we do? And so I was like, well, I know we need to go to the other base, so we might as well just march. So we get in our column. There's 2 abreast. We're marching. We march off this base. And we're in our dress blues. And we march onto this other base. We're saluting the flagpole and everything. We don't know where to go. Like, we have our orders, no idea how to read these things. My buddy goes, well, there's a gateway in. I'm pretty sure that's where everyone goes. So we check into the gateway in, and I lived there for a week. But just had my own room, was going to the mall, was watching movies, and looking out my window every morning, and I'd see all these guys marching up and down the road. I was like, that sucks. I'm so glad I'm not doing that. It's so good to be in this, the special program.
Yeah.
Well, it was about day 6. We get a pound, like everyone just gets hit pounding on their door, and it's the MPs. And the MPs like grab us, and they take us out in this courtyard. We're all standing there at attention, and they're like, "You guys have been AWOL for 6 days.
Holy
Like, we've been looking up for you." And our flight left Great Lakes basically on day 8. So I had 2 more days to wait, right? And I was like, oh no, well, they can't do too much to us. So we had to sweep and mop floors for the entire 2 days. We're on every single watch duty bill. And so that was our first mess up. The second mess up is we get on our plane. We're like, all right, we're free from Great Lakes. And we're headed to, Coronado, the infamous Coronado. And we get off our plane in San Diego, and there's a taxi there. So 5 of us jump in this taxi, this van taxi, and we're like, take us to the SEAL team base. We're going through training. And the driver looks at us, we're so dumb. We're just so dumb.
Oh, yeah.
We're just like, yeah, take us to the SEAL team base. We're going through training.
Yeah.
And the guy like looks at us, and he's like, okay. And mind you, I'm 17, so like I'm just this squirt. And he takes us to the air base, the NAS, Naval Air Station.
Yeah, yeah.
So for the listeners who don't know, Coronado, you got like 2 bases, right? You got the air station, the airfields and everything. And you have NAB, which is an amphib base, and that's where the Buds compound is down there, where SEALs and SWIC train. SWICs have their own pipeline. The SEALs have their Buds, but we all kind of congregate there. I had no idea that. So we get out of this taxi, get into our 2-file column, and we're marching on to the air station. We're saluting the flagpole, and we go to the first building we see, and it just so happened to be the SEER school building. So we go in there with our orders. We're like, yeah, we're going through this training, so and so, and they're like, we don't. I was the first guy. He's like, I don't know what a SWIC is, and I was trying to explain it to him. I was like, oh, we're boat guys, like we take the special forces guys and the SEALs around. And he's like, I was like, okay. He's like, but I see on here that you have SEER school on here, because after our pipeline, you have to go to SEER school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can sign you guys up for SEER school in 2 weeks. And I was like, all right, perfect. So
and you're fresh from boot camp.
Yeah, fresh from boot camp. Very next school is SEER school.
What
And
in the world, dude?
but for 3 weeks they didn't know what to do with us. SEER school wasn't open. So I remember it was a chief, and he gave us all brooms. He was like, "Can you guys just sweep the parking lots every morning and say, so I could say you guys did something?" It's like, "Yeah, I'll sweep the parking lot." It took us like an hour. Broom the parking lot. Boom. I was up in my room, had my skateboard, and I was skating Coronado every day. Texting my friends, just calling up. I was like, "Dude, you gotta join the Navy. It's the best." And went to SEER school and had my just world rocked. I was not expecting that. I watched GI Jane, and I was thinking like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna beat us up," but that was Hollywood, right? Yeah. I mean, what was your school like for you? First off,
So we have our own now, I guess SEER school is organic. So we go
mm,
through SEER in SQT, which is SEAL qualification training with our class. So it's the guys that made it through BUDS, and then we go through SQT together. And so it's all former SEALs are teaching our SEER school, and it's all done down there, in Southern California in different locations. But I mean, it was pretty brutal. I mean, but we had all of us had been through BUDS. We had been through most of SQT. It was like this was like the final step of the process. So nobody was going to quit. It did suck, and actually in SEER school, I got in really big trouble in SEER school because we were doing a like escape and evade exercise up on NOB, the big base where you were. And I don't know if you remember, but there was this just trashy Asian restaurant on all those bases up there called the Rice King. And
yeah,
and so we were supposed to like assimilate, like get out of our uniforms and like just blend in with everybody else on base and end up escaping. Well, so we actually the Rice King had left one of their windows open. So we climbed in through the window and went into the Rice King and took a bunch of their Rice King t-shirts that the employees wore. Like we raided their locker room and
yeah.
dressed up like Rice King employees and walked out and like escaped off the base. And yeah, when we finally like turned ourselves in to the instructor staff, they were like, "Where'd you get these uniforms?" And we're like, "Oh, we got them from the freaking Rice King. They left their window open." And they like actually, our instructors actually like threw us under the bus, and they were trying to like prosecute us from stealing from this trashy Asian, I don't, Chinese or whatever restaurant on a naval base when we were just trying to do our part. Like we were playing the game, dude.
Right.
So it turned into a big freaking nut roll for me, man. I almost got kicked out of training for that. And
Dude,
right there at the very end, dude, that's the last thing we did in SQT. So
I
like,
almost got I almost got kicked out of SWIC school at the very end too.
mm,
That's crazy.
but how, I mean, you're going through, dang, you leave boot camp, you fly out to Coronado, and you go to SEER. Like that is just, I don't even know how. I don't even know how that's possible. You just go into SEER school straight from boot camp, and I guess that's the Navy. I mean, the Navy's this massive machine, and
It
stuff
is.
like that can happen. But dude, I could only imagine like what in the heck were you thinking, man?
I was in shock
I bet you
because
were.
I remember basically you do have to turn yourself in at a certain point in SEER school,
Yeah.
and you got to go through like the you're in internment camp or getting waterboarded and all that stuff. And I remember as like the number one rule I remember was especially going through that indoc in Hawaii was to always be the gray man. Like just be the gray man.
Yep.
Don't try to shine a light. Don't try to be this big, high and mighty, strong guy, and don't be the super smart guy. Just kind of like stay in the middle of the stack, but help your guys out. So I'm in SEER school, and we're turning ourselves in. We're got masks on our head and zip cuffed, right? And we're walking into this camp, and we all stand in line. And these guys are slapping these numbers on our chests, our war criminal numbers. And I was like, just be the gray man. It's cool. I got this. As I can blend in. And the one of the role players is coming through and smacking people in the face.
Oh
Don't
yeah.
look at me. He comes by and like punches another guy. Don't look at me. And he gets up to looking at him. Not looking at him, just looking straight ahead. Dead attention. And he smiles. And he looks at the next guy, which is actually my swim buddy. He was a F-18 fighter pilot, just going through the pipeline. But SEER, he had to go through SEER school. He's tall, 6'2" dude, and he looks at him and he goes, "Tell me your war criminal number." And my buddy looked at him. He's like, "My name is John Smith." And the guy looks at him. He's like, "Oh, wise guy." He's like, "Tell me your war criminal number." He's like, "My name is John Smith." He's like, "Okay." And the instructor looks at me, grabs me by the collar, picks me up, puts me in front of him, just starts smacking the crap out of me, dude. Just, boom, I'm getting rocked. I'm like, oh man. My bell's ringing, like my ears are ringing. And I'm looking at my partner and I'm like, whoa. And he just looks at me. He's like, "I'm so sorry." And he's like, "You tell me your war criminal number or we kill the baby child." So for the next 4 days, I was the baby child. And anybody who messed up, anybody who, didn't drink water or didn't listen, they brought the baby child out and just beat the crap out of him.
That's rough, brother.
Oh, it was awful. I was not the gray man. But I was so happy to graduate SEER school. And after I graduated SEER school, we checked into SWIC school. And when I checked in, it was me and another guy. And they looked at us and like, "We've been waiting for you for 2 months. Like, where have you been?"
Yeah.
And I just told them, I was like, "Well, we went through SEER school. And then after SEER school, we came here." And they're like, "You guys already went through SEER?" Like, "Yeah, I thought we were supposed to go." So I ended up classing up in class 5.5, SWIC class 5.5. And then I ended up graduating in class 5.6. Main reason is on a that big run that you do from the O course past the demo pits all the way down to IB to the elephant cages and back.
Yep.
And while doing that run, I blew my ITB band out, and so they ended up rolling me to the next class.
Mm-hmm.
And in class 5.6, it was like 2 weeks from graduation, and I was huge into airsoft in Hawaii, and I love to play paintball, and so I had this whole rig in my what do you call those old army backpacks that they give us with the frame?
The Alice pack.
Alice packs.
Yeah.
And I had this Alice pack decked out. I mean, CO2 bottles on the side, had all my balls. I had, I had 2 Angel guns in there, and I'd play competitively. But you're not allowed to have it on any base, or at least our base, because they check our lockers. And so on the air base, we got a storage locker, and my buddy drives up to the air base, and I don't know if you remember, but at the very tip of North Island, there's that long jetty that comes off called Zuniga Jetty.
Oh yeah.
And everyone goes bugging there. It's super illegal. Don't do it. If you're watching this, don't do it. But they decided they wanted to go bugging. I'm not a big bugger. I didn't really care for it. I just wanted to put my paintball gear in my storage locker and go home. So I waited in the truck. And as I'm waiting in the truck, an MP comes along because we're parked in a restricted area. This is like the ammo section of the base where they keep all the weapon or all the bullets. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was super cool with him. I was like, "Oh, my buddies are swimming in the ocean. And I'm just here to put stuff in my storage locker." He's like, "Well, what do you got?" And I was like, "Oh, my paintball gear." He's like, "Oh, it's fine." He's like, "What are your buddies doing out there?" And he knew. He wasn't dumb. He knew they were out there trying to get some lobsters. I was like, "I don't know. I think they're swimming." So they came out of the water, and of course they thought they were all high and mighty 2 weeks from graduating, and they're just like, "Yeah, we're just getting some bugs. I don't see why you're being such a douche. Like, lay off." And that wasn't the right things to say to this guy. So we got arrested, got put in a holding cell, and this was 4th of July.
Wow, man.
And so the cadre had to come and bail us out of North Island Jail on 4th of July. And I remember it was our warrant officer for the schoolhouse who picked us up. He's driving me, and I'm in the front seat of his truck, and you can see the fireworks going off over the San Diego Bay. And I looked at him, and he was like, "I had to pick you guys up. I had to leave my family on the beach to get you guys. I'm dropping you off. We're going to deal with this on the next day." And I thought it was done, man. Like, I was like, dude, he's going to drop us. Like, this is it. And all my buddies got dropped except for me.
Wow,
for some reason, So they decided to keep me around. They're like, we know you're not a troublemaker. We know you don't do these stupid things. He's like, but I ended up standing watch for a month after I graduated on the what do you guys call it? What's the Buds compound where you got the dive tower? There's a gate there.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about. I don't
I,
even, I just always called it the Buds compound. I don't
that's
know
it.
what you, yeah,
I was
cause
a I was a road guard there for a month,
yeah.
and no car came through. There was no cars. So I just had to stand there in my dress blues every day.
Dude,
But
isn't that a terrible feeling too? Like being right at the end of training, and I can remember that, like just that feeling in my stomach. Like you at that point, you have so much invested in what you've done, and you've been through so much, and you're right there at the end, and it's like, oh my gosh, are they really gonna kick me out for this?
yep.
Like it's just that was one of the worst feelings uh of my life. Like, and maybe that's why that's the one thing I remember from SEER school is that memory, because it kind of trumped all the other bull crap that we had to go through during that course of instruction. That feeling of I was literally just trying to be smart and play the game, and now they're considering taking everything away from me,
Yep.
by throwing me under the bus. And, that was a rough feeling, man. So I can only imagine you went through the same thing, but it was obviously, part of God's plan for your life to carry on and, graduate training and get to the teams, man. And, where does the story go from there, brother?
So from there, I checked into Special 12, which is right there across the street from the Buds compound, and I checked into my first detachment, it was Detachment Kilo, and man, I was gung ho. I had my wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time, um, rooting me on, and just it was a whole different pace of life because everything I did was 1,000% for the teams. Like it was like team first, relationship second.
Yep.
Like I hate to admit it, and even before I got forced retired, that perspective of that was the hardest thing for transition for me was I always said I put family first, but when I said that, it was the brothers that I was putting first. Like they're my family, so I'm going to do everything for them first. Team gear, my gear, me. I'm last on the stack, making sure my brothers are good, my gear is good. Then when I got home and took everything off and hung up my kit, and I had my beautiful wife and our home, it was like, okay, switch. And she realized like she wasn't going to get the attention that she wanted, and just totally different pace of life from what all her friends were having. They had stable boyfriends at the time, and going out and partying, and we just didn't get to do any of that. So
Yep.
anytime there was an opportunity, like, hey, we need a volunteer to go up to San Clemente Island, it's like, oh, it's me. Or we need someone to play Op 4. I was like, yeah, that's me. So what that ultimately led to was in my 6 years at Special Team 12, I did 5 deployments, just back to back to back, and it was all to Kenya, doing FID, which is Formal Internal Defense, training the Kenyans, training their Special Forces team, and like doing like counter drug countering, drug trafficking, like patrols up on the Indian Ocean. So I was just never home. So after the 6 years, my contract was up, and my wife, she was like, I'd really like you to retire, or not retire, but to get out. She's like, you got a full GI Bill. She graduated from Pepperdine, so she's a lot smarter than I am. And she's like, you should go to college, go to SDSU, and start off a new career. You're young, we can get through this. And I said yes. I was like, you know what? Like, why not? I was kind of burnt out. I'm sure you remember, like in the teams, it turned into this very prolonged Groundhog's Day, right? Of just your different sections of training, and then deploying, and you come back, and it's like A, C, D, deploy, come back, and it's a train that never stops. And then after 6 years, like the scenarios are the same, and
Yep.
or you're the guy who's trying to change the scenario a little bit, and I started to see it, and I wasn't doing the fighting that I wanted to do. I wasn't getting the missions that I thought I was going to get, and I had a lot of joy, and I was proud of what I did. But I was like, yeah, maybe I should try something else. And when things took a big turn for me, because my command master chief pulled me aside after I went through TAPS. They didn't think I was serious, but TAPS is a transition assistance program that the Navy provides.
Yep.
But you have to go through TAPS if you're planning on getting out. It's mandatory. So I signed up, did my TAPS course, and they have to get signed off by your command. And they're like, you've been through TAPS? I was like, yeah, I'm going to get out. And my master chief asked me, he's like, there's an augment deployment with a tier 1 group in the Navy. Like, we'd like you to go and do an augment with them for 4 months. And then when you come home, you'll have 3 months left on your contract and you can get out. And he's like, that's the best way we can use you. You got all these qualifications. I think that's the best way for you to go. He's like, you can end your career on a high note. And I was like, well, cool. Like, let's go do this. So I did an augment deployment. And that changed my life forever, because we did 2 hostage rescues, got into a bunch of firefights. We did a lot of really good work out there. Like, in my entire Navy career, I've never done as much work in 4 months than I did in my entire career. And I remember going in for that hostage rescue mission and just seeing these guys jump out of a C5 or C-17 and all land in the water. We're picking them up straight from pickup, going straight into target. And as we're going in, my OIC at the time, he like grabs me by the shoulder. He's like, hey, I know when you get back, you only got a couple months and, you're thinking about getting out. He's like, but if you re-enlist right now, like on this mission, I'll guarantee you a spot to go through training in Green Team. And I was like, done. Like, that was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. It's like, you got assets out the yin yang. You guys got all this Gucci gear and like everyone's super tight. I was like, this is what I want. And so I raised my right hand and I swore back in on the Navy on that mission for 5 years. And I was like, this is the best decision I ever made. Boy, was my wife upset.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, for some reason that just gave me chills, dude. Like, I don't know. I was just visualizing in my mind, you being on that mission and then making that commitment there. I mean, that had to have been a powerful moment, man. And yeah, dude, I don't think people understand what that type of life, what it does to a relationship, man. Like, I don't even know how to put it in words, because Brooke and I were actually talking about that this morning when we went out on a run together. Just talking through the complexities of that life, and when you're not only the op tempo, but the whole fact that you literally have to put your job first. Like, that's what I was telling her today when we were talking through it, man. I was like, it's so crazy that back in those days, like literally when I was at work, I'm ashamed to say, but I was not concerned at all about her. Even though I should have been, I completely neglected it, but it was, I guess it's a necessity. And, I think the only people that can truly understand that, is our wives, and then us as we reflect back on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had this same notion as like, look, I got a steady paycheck coming in. My wife has everything that she's ever wanted. She's got the house, she's got her car, we got money for food, she's got health care, she's protected. And I was like, well, that was my job and my relationship when I was missing the total big picture, and I didn't realize it until after I got out.
Yep.
But I was a provider, and I felt like, well, I'm providing, so I'm holding up my end of the deal. Like, what? Like, why are you so mad at me? I'm giving you everything. Like, I remember, like, I was like, you got it all on a plate. Like, I'm out there like living in shitholes and getting shot at. It's like, you got this beautiful, like, what are you so mad at me for?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to give you everything you want. And but it's the most important thing in relationships to be needed. Like, you want to feel like you're needed, or like you're wanted. My wife didn't feel that way. She just felt like she was like this thing on a pedestal that I posted her up, because I told her I told her the truth. She's everything to me. And but I was never there. So like when I was in the squadron, like they were everything to me. Like I basically treated that relationship in the squadron with my brothers as if it was my marriage. It was the love, the compassion, the empathy, the shoulder to cry on, the guy to fight, when he's out aggravated and he's losing his mind. Like, that was my main focus. And now that when I shifted, and we spent a whole year on the road, and we'll probably get to that, But we really got to learn what's important in a relationship and how to mend those wounds. There's so many wounds that you don't really talk through, through trauma being in the military. But yeah, the transition out, it's so hard, like you said, to explain to people. Like, people are like, well, you're in the military 9 to 5, right? And you come home like, I'm an IT guy, I do the same thing. Like, I work for Apple and I got long work hours and I come home, but my relationship's great. It's like, well, yeah, because you're not spending that 8 hours at home thinking about how you're going to accomplish the next mission or how you're going to train the guys for your next deployment. You're always thinking of these things, and it just deteriorates your relationship. Yeah.
So you get back home, Dash, and from that deployment, and maybe you had a chance to let her know that you decided to stay in, man, and you get back home, and like you said, I'm sure she was probably taken aback because you completely shifted the plan on her, man, and working through that. I mean, what was that next 5 years like?
Man, I can't tell you the amount of like internal gratification I got for actually taking that leap. I knew that in my soul, if I didn't try to achieve or do or become the best at what I was doing, and I knew there was an opportunity to do it and I didn't seize it, I would be kicking myself down for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I had an opportunity in front of me to better myself or I hate to say it, but to prove my worth. Like I wanted to prove to not just, well, to everybody, but also to myself that I'm the best. Like I can do whatever it is that you put in front of me, I can do it. And my wife knew that about me. She knew, like, whenever I go rock climbing, I don't care if it's a 5'11" or 5'13", and I've never climbed that route before, and I don't even climb at that level. I'm not going to stop until I make it. Like, I don't care if I'm cattywampusing, if I'm swinging off into a different route, trying to make it up. I'll make it up. And I learned from that. She knows my drive. She knows like who I am inside, and she knew that if she stopped me from taking that opportunity, that it would destroy me because I had something in front of me to prove greatness, right? We all want to be great in life, and that was my moment where I knew, like, people are counting on me, people believe in me that I can do this, so it's game time. I got to show them. There's no fail to it. There's no ands or buts. I have to do this. And I'm so grateful to have her in my life. And she supported me 1,000%. I packed up our house in Imperial Beach into a pod, those pods that ship across country. Then we got into my 1969 Volkswagen bus. And from San Diego, we drove it all the way to Virginia Beach. And the way I trained for Green Team was I lived out on my bus and basically did van pushes in the morning. Then I'd follow it by runs, rock climbing, backpacking, pull-up trees, rock climbing on huge faces, and just getting as lean and as mean as I could.
Yep.
And I remember getting to Green Team and just, again, the same scenario of when I started SWIC school, the caliber of men that are at that command that are going through that training. It's like nothing. It's like you can't even read it in a book. Like, you have to be in that hodgepodge of dudes, like, to be like, holy shit, these guys are the real deal. They're the top notch tier 1 dudes. And I remember I got to this parking lot, and it's 3:00 in the morning. We're getting ready for a screener, and guys have like 405 on a bar. The guys are just cleaning it. Boom, slamming on the ground. Guys are picking up 100-pound kettlebells and like doing shoulder shrugs and like doing all this stuff. And I'm looking at them like, oh man, this isn't good. Like, oh man, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, man. And for the listeners, Green Team is basically it's a whole nother pipeline that you have to go through in order to serve with Damneck. And all this stuff none of this is secret information. You can Google any of this and figure this out. But that's what Green Team is. It's a whole nother, it's not a whole nother like Buds or SWIC school, but it is another selection process it really refines the tools that it takes to be a tactician on the highest level. So this is where you're going through this whole nother selection process.
That's what captivated me so much about it, right? I've already spent 6 years in a special forces community, and every person I talked to there like they were set and comfortable being in San Diego. Like they got the house, you know, they got their family, the kids are in school, like they're set, they're comfy, they're comfortable.
Yep.
And I told a bunch of guys like, hey, why don't you guys come to this screener with me? Guys that I knew were like top caliber dudes that would just crush. And all of them said it like, I don't want to go through selection again. Like I don't want to be under that fire.
Yep.
Or you know, I've got all these things already set. Like I don't want to uproot all of this. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, but then why are you here? And that was just my mentality. Is like, what? There's something so, and you guys complain so much about being here, and you want to do so much better. And there's a place you can do it. You just don't want to go through another selection phase. Like, what are you afraid of? Failing? And they're like, yeah, like we're made men. We've already done it. I was like, no, you're not even close. Not even close.
And there again, I think you were totally committed, man. I mean, you were just totally committed to the brotherhood. You were totally committed to your career, and you were front sight focused on being literally the best operator on the highest level that you could possibly reach. And, you know, that's awesome. But there's a price to pay. And, you know, you look at the guys, and same with guys I know, in the SEAL teams, you know, the guys that decided that they didn't want to go screen, they were in a place that you were talking about. They were comfortable with the op tempo. They were comfortable with where they were in their career. And, you know, I think it is definitely a point that people don't want to fail. They don't want to go through another selection process. But, you know, I like to think maybe too, some of those people may have made the best decision and chose to stay in that comfortable place, in order to, I guess, provide a level environment for their family, you know, because, you know, I don't know a single dude that operated, you know, I won't make that comment anyways. I won't go there, but anyways, so there's two different looks at it, and I can see where you were just 100% committed to this mission, man.
Yep.
So you make it through Green Team, right?
Woo, made it. Graduated top of the class. And after I graduated in February. And then in March, I was deployed. So after graduation, moved my wife out to Virginia, and then gave her a kiss and was gone for 4 months on my first deployment. And that was a tempo for about 5 years. And it was so rough because we had our first, you know, we had 2 children in Virginia while I was at the command, and she was a single stay-at-home mom, like with no husband to help. You know, I was always gone. I remember times I'd come home, get home about 6 p.m. I was so thankful. I had dinner on the table that she probably slaved all day on. I remember sticking my fork in the food and my phone would go off. I had 45 minutes to make it back to work, and I was deployed again. I didn't even get to eat. And I remember kissing my oldest. He's 5 now. He's 1 year old. Just kissing him on the head. Kissed my wife goodbye. She's like, "You're leaving again?" It's like, "Yeah, I gotta go." And it was for 5 years. It was like that. It's just, you're always gone. But the missions that I got to do and the impact that we got to make in the overseas was tremendous for me. Like, the amount of pride, I always wanted to be needed. You know, I wanted to prove myself, but I wanted to help. I wanted to feel like I was a part of something where people could rely on me and I could get the job done.
Yep.
You know, like I wanted to be a part of that. And I felt like that at the command. Not like I did at the other command, but I felt like that at this command. And we started to mend through, like we realized, especially after having our second kid, I'll never forget, I took her on a date night. My mom flew in and she'd take care of the kids. And Dash was 3 and Jax was 1. And we're at this, I think it was like a Whiskey Barrel kitchen or something, had some cheeseburgers in front of us. She just starts bawling her eyes out. And I sit there and I start like tearing up. I was, "What's wrong?" And she just vented everything to me. I felt like such a horrible person because I had the person that I love, the person that I cherish, and take, you know, she's my teammate. She's everything. Well, I'm not there for her.
Yeah.
And it just devastated me. And from there, we started doing marriage counseling. You know, I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to invest into her, that she knows that she's everything to me. And it was a big switch, right? So the whole team gear, my gear, me mentality, I put my wife in the middle. There was team gear, family, then it was my gear, then it was me.
Yep.
And I made sure after every time I got back from a training mission, I called her or texted her. And I tried to bring her into the fold more so rather than push her away. And it really helped us out. And thankfully, right before I got through some big hurdles in my life, which was cancer. But yeah.
Well, all right, man. I got to hear first. Did we skip over the portion?
Oh, yeah, we did.
So did we? I want to hear the cancer story definitely, and I want to hear the story of I want to hear your testimony basically.
Sure. So my testimony is 2015. I was off the coast of the Indian Ocean, and my roommate, my buddy Adam, he was a team leader. He was studying what's called apologetics. Apologetics is a study of basically why. It's like the theology of Christianity. It kind of breaks down all the different laws and structures and fundamentals, and it kind of asks the deeper questions just to have a deeper understanding of the meaning of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it studies all religions. It studies Buddhism, Hinduism, Catholicism. It studies all these different religions, but it really tries to emphasize why Christ is the one. But it's not persuasive. It's not in your face. And a very influential teacher of mine that I listened to religiously was Ravi Zacharias. But my roommate, his name was Adam. I'm sitting there in his room, and there's nothing going on for months, man. We're bored, and I'm covered in Hindu tattoos because my foster family is Chinese, Japanese, and Thai. So they're Buddhist. And this was so confusing to me. So he's asking me about my religion. He's asking me, like, why are you Buddhist? And I was telling him, oh, my family's Buddhist, the ones who adopted me. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. And it was strange for me to hear a Christian tell me that. Like, oh, that's awesome. He's like, well, tell me more. Like, what are these Buddha gods? Like, what do they do? Like, what do they stand for? And he's really intrigued about my belief or my family's belief.
Mm-hmm.
And the more he started asking me, the more I realized I didn't know anything about my religion. Nothing. It was all passed down of things I saw my parents do, and I want to show them respects and want to be a part of the fold. So I followed, and I wasn't going to disrespect their culture. I wasn't going to disrespect their traditions. I just adopted them as my own. And when he told me that, he was like, wow, that's really interesting. And the thing that got me was he asked me, like, how does that make you feel? He's like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you stand solid on your foundation of your beliefs? Or like, is it rocky? Like, he's like, one day, do you think you'll be a Muslim? And I was like, no, like, why would I be a Muslim? Nothing against Muslims. So like, but why would I be a Muslim? He's like, well, if you were raised in a Muslim family, would you be Muslim? I was like, yeah, probably. He's like, well, why? I was like, well, that's just what they do. He's like, but more importantly, like, what about you? Like, you as a person, like, why do you believe what you believe?
Yeah.
And he didn't throw Christianity. Like, he wasn't like, you should read this, or here's Jesus and here's the gospel. He just told me, like, man to man, he's like, you really should have a strong foundation of your beliefs, of what you believe. And I appreciated that. So what did I do is I just started digging deep into Buddhism, as deep as I could go.
Yeah.
And the more I dug into it, the more frustrated I got, because I'd call my mom or call my my adopted dad, and ask him questions. And what was interesting was all the Buddhas and gods that they worship, like, they had them up on these little altars, and they'd feed them food and water and all this stuff, and burning incense and praying for an hour a day. It's like all those Buddhas were Hindu. They're Hindu Buddhas or Hindu deities.
Mm-hmm.
None of them were Buddhist. Like, they're not Buddhas. So, like, Buddha is actually it comes from, like, the Japanese and Chinese culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're kind of meshed. But Buddhism it's all self-awareness, like, getting rid of everything. But it's nirvana is like, you have the ability to reach this higher form of enlightenment through your own self and nothing else. And the only way to get there is to rid yourself of everything. And, like, when I looked at it, I was like, okay, that's Buddhism. It's like, well, what is Hinduism? And Hinduism is the worships of deities and gods to protect you and bless your life, right? Like there's so many of them. There's thousands.
Yeah.
And so when I called my parents up again, I was like, hey, it's like, I think you guys are actually Hindu. Like, I think you're confused. And they're getting so upset at me, like, what? You always ask all these questions? You know, it reminds them, oh gosh, what's his name? Is it Matthew? Matthew's always asking questions in the Bible.
Yeah.
And doubting Thomas, even though he always doubts, he always asks these deep questions of why and why. And but anyway, they're like, you always ask all these questions. Don't be disrespectful. It's like, whoa, not being disrespectful. It's like, I'm covered in these Hindu gods, right? And I'm trying to figure it out. I was like, these are Hindu gods, but we are Buddhists. And like, I told them a whole thing about Buddhism. I gave them a whole, like, I sending my dad all these PDF files that I'm reading on deployment. And he's like, yeah, I get it. He's like, at the end of the day, it comes down to what makes you happy. That's what he told me. He's like, what makes you happy? And that could be your belief. I was like, no, it can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And then of course I'm starting to read into Christianity and other religions. And I was like, there's only one guy who's ever claimed to be the truth and the light. There's only one. There's only one guy who took all the responsibilities that all the other gods said they'd, bless other people's life. He took all the authority to himself and then died on the cross. There's only one. And I remember reading this article from Gandhi. And Gandhi was like, the thing I love about the Bible, or the thing I appreciate the most about Jesus, was he was a man of his word, and he actually stood up for what he went through the fire. He claimed that he was the truth and the life and the light of the world, and he died on the cross. No other prophet, like no other religion has that kind of guy who took that responsibility upon himself and lived it. Like, just, this is me.
Yep.
And man, it got so much deeper. But I came home from that deployment with a ton of conflicts. About to have my first son, Dash Jr., and just wondering, like, why do I practice this? Why do I do this? Why do I have these tattoos? About to have a son born into this world. How am I going to raise him? Right? Am I going to raise him to just follow the traditions that I have?
Yeah.
Because that's how I am, or I'm going to raise him on a foundation where he can build it upon himself to find out these answers, And I'll never forget it. There was 3 events that happened where, call it superstition or call it a divine intervention or whatever you might want. But I'm happy to share this testimony with people, whether they believe it or not. But my wife will vouch for it. Her sisters will vouch for it. Like, I had so many people that actually witnessed what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That is undeniable what the Lord did. And it all started in the hot tub one night. I was on my deck in Chesapeake. And I was in the hot tub, and it was crazy. I just all of a sudden got filled with rage, like deep within my sternum, like this boiling that just started happening. And everything in my past, all the hurt, all the pain, all the agony of my entire life just started coming to fruition. And that whole in the beginning of this podcast, the why came in really hard. Like, why did I have to go through this? Like, why would you treat me this way? Why would you forsaken me? Like, why would you leave me and abandon me and let me starve? Why would you let me like wither and cold? And why would you let me hear my mother get raped? And like, why would you put me in all these situations? Like, why? Just boiling, right? Just fuming. And I remember sitting in the hot tub staring at the stars and just pissed. Like, no, this isn't right. It's like, you're going to take this away. Yeah. If you're truly God, if you're God and you're the all high and mighty, like, take this away. Like, this is poison. This is toxic, what I have in my body. And I remember telling him, I was like, and you did this to me. And I'm laying, and I got out of the hot tub, and like, dude, I mean, I'm like tense. I don't know what came over me, but all of a sudden I'm laying on the deck with my back on the deck and staring up at the stars. And it is as if someone put their hands on my shoulders and pushed me down on the deck gently, not like I was being like held down, but like a comforting push. And everything was gone. Everything was gone. All the pain, all the suffering, all the anguish, all the resentment was gone. And it just felt like this chills. I'm getting them now, like all the hairs on my hands on my arms are standing up.
Yeah.
and just started crying. Like all these tears were coming out of my eyes, and I was like, "What is this?" And the Lord put it like I couldn't hear this. It wasn't like someone was speaking on a microphone or anything, but I felt this voice come up from inside and just like resonate in my head. And it was weird. It was like having a flashback of my previous, childhood. And it was like a flashback to my childhood to like where I am now, childhood to where I'm at now. And the Lord basically put it on my heart. He's like, if you weren't the salt and light as a child in that darkness where I put you, like think about all the people that are going to see where you are now, that hurt you, that abandoned you, that treat you so bad, and think about how they're going to see you now. Like you were there for a reason. You were there to be that light.
Yep.
You were there to show them their actions were wrong. You were there to stand up for righteousness, even though you didn't know it.
Yep.
But you were always my child, and I knew what you're going to stand for. I knew how I made your heart. I knew the soul that I put in you, and I knew who you were going to become, and that's why I did it. And then he put on to, and he knows how my mind is. He said, "How would it be if I didn't put you there? Think about all those kids that you stood in line with that were in that fight club, and all the drug lords that watch you stand up and do these actions and stand up for righteousness. Those little ripples make big waves, and you don't get to see it." He's like, "But I do." He's like, "You were there for a reason. You've always wanted to be useful. You've always wanted to be needed." He's like, "I needed you, and now look where you're at." He's like, I've never left your side.
Yep.
I've never abandoned you. I've always been there for you." And that was a moment where I was like, "Oh my gosh, you are God. Like you are always there." And I could all my perspective of everything shifted, even though I had a positive perspective in my life and I had understanding and empathy for everybody. I was still pissed. It was still super shitty. You don't treat kids that way. You don't raise them that way. But I didn't let that change who I want to ultimately become. I want to be a good person. Like I want to be positive. The hate was still there, but once you look at things in a heavenly perspective and you try to understand, you never will, but you try to look at how God's working it and not how you're working it. You try to look at his timeline and not your timeline, you get amazed. You just get blown away at his mighty and his grace. You're like, wow, I could never orchestrate something like that.
100%, brother. And I think that I've came to the same realization in my life to where, you had that moment where you look back and you realize, holy smokes, I was on the path the whole time. Like I've been on the path the entire time. And that's a huge realization. And likewise, brother, when I got saved, man, I got it all in one shot, dude. And I wish, like, when you get hit with that, like one of my favorite truths that is spoken in God's word is that whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Whom Jesus sets free is free indeed. It is the only true and complete sense of freedom that is available to us as human beings. And I got set free. Similar, not exactly the same, not dealing with the same things, but I woke up the next morning, dude, and I didn't want to watch porn. I didn't want to cuss. I wanted to, I was, and it wasn't from my own power. Like it was just like, I was truly born again. I'm not saying this like a Baptist preacher would say it. I'm saying this from a true place of experience. It was like I was truly born again. So that story, that portion of your testimony resonates so much with me. And I wish that everybody would get it the way we got it, man, because it's like, there's no process to it. It's just like it hits you like a ton of bricks, dude. And then you're just rocking and rolling. So.
The mind-boggling thought of the whole matter is to understand that you were specifically chosen by the Lord. Like when I look at the vastness of space, when I look at the multitudes of people and the countries that we've been to and seen the things that we've seen, and to know that He's singled me out personally and chose me and saved me out of everything.
Yep.
It blows my mind. Like I'm so minuscule. I'm so tiny. and like played such a like in the big scheme of things, like even being a tier one operator, like the things we did are so minute, like little course changes in history, right?
Yep.
Like little tweaks here and there, not large ones, but little ones. And then he comes in and just he's always like you're his. You can't run away from it. And it's the greatest feeling in the world. But I will say the most important thing is if you're having trouble, like wondering where you are in your walk, or if you want to follow Jesus, or if he's the truth and you're contemplating it, just ask him. And I've challenged all my friends. People always like, oh, you drank the Kool-Aid. And I was like, dude, I was like, I dare you. Like, I dare you. Ask him. Like, ask him to prove himself. Like, ask him into your heart and watch what happens. Watch the change. You'll be on this river that's running this rapid path, and boom, it'll take you 90 degrees off.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yep. And that's, that's another principle in God's word, and God's word is truth. And it's, ask and you will find, knock and the door will be open for you. But it implies initiative. And the problem, I think the biggest challenge with getting down, and asking Jesus to reveal himself to you, that takes humility, man. Like it takes, you have to let go of your pride first to be able to come, come before Jesus, even before you even believe, have the ability to believe in him. You've got to humble yourself, let go of your pride, and then just speak those words out loud. And like you said, Dash, ask him. And if you start seeking, he's going to open the door and reveal himself to you. But it's got to come from a pure heart, and you got to at least get through that. I think pride is the number one thing that keeps people from taking that step, even though it sounds like such an easy step to take, to just ask Jesus to reveal himself to you. Ask for that measure of faith. The Bible says God gives every man a measure of faith. See, everything starts with him. The fact that you and I can believe in Jesus, the fact that we can believe in him, that's not a decision that we made. He gave us a measure of faith in order to believe in him. And anyways, I think that's the main obstacle that those people you're talking about and those people that you are challenging, just ask. I think that's the main obstacle that stands between them and asking that question and then receiving that revelation is just human pride, man.
Sure. I remember my biggest conflict was I didn't need a savior. Like, why did I need someone to stand up for me? And for my, like, I didn't understand the whole say this prayer and get baptized and receive the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
I remember looking at it like, but I mean, for what? Like, what's the big point? Like, if I go up to heaven, I'm a good man.
It's almost like self-righteousness. Yeah.
It is. And
I felt the same thing.
I've done all these things in my life that I've always done it for the benefit of others. Very selfless. I'm a good person. I don't need Jesus. Like, I don't need someone to stand up for me on my iniquities, the things. I'll gladly stand up and admit I'm wrong or the things that I'm doing wrong. I have no problem with that. I got, like, what's this whole point? And then I remember like feeling cheated, by going to church from all the people that I was meeting who was like, I'm a saved man, and I got Jesus in my heart, and just seeing them like, I'm not pointing fingers, but seeing people doing things, and I'm guilty of it too, but doing things that don't replicate the kingdom or Jesus's qualities that he speaks about in the Bible. And I remember asking somebody about like being saved. It's like, so you mean to tell me that like you got baptized in this water and you said this prayer and you asked the Lord in your heart and now everything's good? And he's like, yeah, that's it, man. And I was like, well, that don't make no sense.
Yeah.
Like logically, like if you really think about it, you mean to tell me 2,000 years ago, this guy came, was sent to earth, was God's son, died on the cross for the sins of everybody for eternity. And all you have to do is say, "Oh yeah, I believe in you," and you can do whatever you want, commit any sins, but as long as you believe in Jesus, when you get up to heaven, he's like, "Look, you were an awful person. You were really bad." He's like, "I know you believe in me, so here you go." Yeah. And what destroyed me, absolutely destroyed me, was I was reading the parable son, um, and I've never saw it in this perspective of, the eldest son and the younger son, and the younger son wants all of his riches now from the father, and he wants it all, and father's like, "No, it's not time," and the brother's like, "Don't give it to him. He's just going to squander all his money, and he's going to waste it all." And the father's like, "But it's his. Like, what I'm going to give it," and he gave it to him. And he goes out and he squanders all, and he's laying in a swine pit, and he's got nothing. And he's like, "Well, if I go back and work for my father, at least things will be good." And I understood that perspective of it. I understand that, we mess up in our lives, and Jesus stands there to receive us. But there's two parts that captivated me so much. Was one, that in the parable, the father of the house ran to his son, the one who squandered all his riches, ran to him and embraced him. Right? I've never had a dad. First off, I've never had someone like run to me, right, with so much love and compassion, to like that welcome home embrace. I remember thinking about, like, well, that's really interesting. Like thinking and again, this is the whole building of the heavenly perspective of the kingdom's perspective, not my perspective, but how he operates.
Yep.
And he runs to us. Like he runs with open arms. He's head over heels. All the angels rejoice, at the saving of a soul. But the second part that destroyed me was the eldest son, who had all the riches of the father, who stood next to the father and saw his younger brother squander. And he was telling his father, "Why would you welcome him back?" He's like, "You've seen what he's done." He's like, "But why would you do that?" And then the eldest son leaves, right? He leaves. They're having this huge feast, right? They have the calf like the young calf, it was a highly renowned like meat for their time.
Yeah.
And in order to use it, the fattened calf, right? It was like a big ceremony. And the eldest brother's like, "Why would you give it to him? Like he wasted everything of ours, yet you give him everything." And if you think about the eldest son, think about his perspective, this is what changed my heart. Is so many times we spend so much time of thinking about all the things of heaven and all the beauties and wonders that heaven's going to provide, and the streets laden in gold, and our new bodies, and no pain, and rejoice and love and everything that heaven has. But so it's so easy to forget what's the main focus there. Is Jesus. It's the man who stands there. Like, would you want all the things of heaven like the eldest son had? Like he has all the riches and he has the father, but he doesn't want the father. Like he wants all the things that he has. He doesn't want to sacrifice the fat calf because it should be for a different time. He doesn't want to give the squanders. He doesn't want to take off his ring and give it to his brother because his brother already squandered it, because he wants all the things of heaven the way he thinks it's supposed to be, not the way the father thinks it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And when I thought about that, I was like, wow. So this really changed my perspective on not so much wanting to get into heaven, because that's where my thought process was. If heaven is the ultimate goal, and then how do I get there? All I have to do is say this prayer and get saved by Jesus, and now I'm in heaven. Okay, mission accomplished. Well, with that perspective, you want all the things that the kingdom provides, but not the king. And when you go that way, you miss what I personally believe you miss one of the most important teachings that Jesus has, is a relationship with him. Like there's only one reason you make it into heaven, and that's because Jesus knows you and you know him. He's like, "Many will call upon my name of the day, but I will say to them, you've prophesied in my name, you've healed the sick, you've placed hands on the lepers, but depart from me, I never knew you." But why would he say something like that? And there's that one passage that's written in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. That one passage, like it's so tiny and minuscule, but it's so strong and impactful to realize like where you stand with the Lord. It's
Yep.
so important to have a relationship with him. It really is. And it doesn't mean like you're all huggy and kissy with the dude who came to save you. I mean, it really, when you have a relationship with him, you really understand like he's Abba the Father. He's the man who protects you and guides you and nourishes you. Of course you're gonna love him. Like, of
Yep.
course you're gonna try to listen to him. You know what I mean?
He and
Long term rant, but
No, man, and you're exactly right. When you're in that relationship, brother, it's like you come to that realization that he is the source of all things. He is the beginning of all wisdom. He is the source of all understanding. He is the one thing that sustains you as your life hangs on this little thread day to day. And that's the way I feel every day in my life, man. When you reach that point in that relationship, when you seek that relationship with him, you earnestly seek it, you genuinely seek it. Again, it starts with initiative, and then he provides that. It's like there's not a day that goes by that you don't feel his presence and you don't feel his calling upon your life. And it is the most freedom, like that you can sense or even imagine. It's just true freedom and a true stance of understanding and wisdom. And that's all the things you get from that relationship. So I agree. You have to seek that relationship, which is not just about saying a prayer and being baptized and kind of the religious aspects of it. It is a true relationship with a loving Father who created you and who created everything around you. And I also think, Dash, something been on my heart a lot lately, man, is we as believers in Christ, or even people in general that may not believe the same way we believe, but are seeking some sort of belief in a higher power, they look too much for a supernatural sign. And so we are actually in this place that we live, nature, in this world that we live in, we are surrounded. This is all a supernatural creation. We are
everything's a miracle.
Yeah, man, we are surrounded by supernatural elements and laws, and the complexity of it is just it cannot be replicated. And so, you don't have to have that moment where the sky splits and a dove descends upon you, and it's like all of a sudden everything's clear. Like, no, that's not the way it works. See, God will speak to you through the natural because that is his creation, and he's done that so many times.
Just as a child who looks up to his father, the child knows the father's voice, and the child knows, like, when the father is saying something or commanding something. Like, just with my children, they know everything I put in front of them is for them. They know how I'm going to raise them up. They understand what's right and what's wrong and what not to do. Well, God, I believe that he operates the same way, and he knows how he needs to speak to you. He speaks on multiple different ways. Like, for me, I love numbers. Like, I'm a huge numbers guy. Probably why I'm addicted to navigation, but I love numbers. And I always saw the Lord working in my life in a comical way, where he's putting numbers in front of me that made me laugh. He'd always put like the same numbers in front of me, like 111 or 333 or 1212, and license plates that would have the same number. While I'm thinking something and meditating on the Lord, and I'm asking him a question like, is this a confirmation? Like, should I do this in my life, or should I move my family here? And I see something like 333 or 444. I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like, but I know that's how my father works with me. I know that's, and there's times he speaks in my heart where I can hear his breath into my consciousness. And I know what he's speaking is true because it is good. Right. And that's how you can challenge all things. And you can also relate it to scripture. If it bounces off of scripture and it works good in your life, then it has to be from the Lord. There's no way it can be from the enemy. I mean, the enemy can infiltrate your dreams and kind of coerce the way you go about your life. But ultimately, if your conscience and your focus is on the Lord, then the enemy has no power. But one thing that really to drive home that perspective of relationship with Jesus is not just the parable son, but thinking of the three guys on the cross. Right? You had the two thieves, and you had Jesus. And you had one thief on the cross who said, "If you were the Lord, the Redeemer, the Savior, why don't you just work your miracles and save us?"
Yep.
the second thief repented and said, "You are the Lord." And Jesus said to that second man, like, "Great is your reward in heaven." Like, when you think about that perspective, those men were hanging on a cross, dying, but one man wanted all the things and the saving grace of the Lord that he could provide, but wanted nothing of him. But the other one acknowledged everything that who he was and cherished it and got everything that the Lord wanted to give to him. It's really powerful. I mean, it can get so deep.
Oh, it is, brother. I mean, we could have done an entire podcast just on this and not talked about any of the rest of your stories, dude. 100%.
I mean, none of it's important. Only Jesus.
I'm telling you, brother. I mean, so before, and I want to be, if you got to go, Dash, you let me know, man. But I'm really looking forward to releasing this to our audience, man. So before we move into the time, the whole, I guess, story of you and cancer, is there anything else that you want to share about your testimony, man?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Roger that.
Yeah, I don't think I can get any better than that.
Roger that, man. And I imagine, your faith has got to be intermingled with this next battle that we talk about too. I mean, so I want to dig into that, and you tell me, if you could just walk me through that story in whatever way that you want, when you did, get that diagnosis with cancer and how that affected you and your family, and whatever you want to share about that, man, because I've never heard the story, the full version of the story. I just know little bits and pieces,
Yeah. So the next part of my story is 2017. We were getting ready to go on our deployment cycle. So what that means is all our bags are packed in ISUs and all our gear is there. We're leaving in a week. And we have to go over our certs, our qualifications to go on deployment to make sure everything's in line. And one thing that I didn't have, my ducks in a row, was called HAPS. My HAPS card was going to expire. And that stands for high altitude parachute certification. Basically, they put you in like a chamber. They simulate the forms of hypoxia and low oxygen, and make sure you can operate at a capacity where you can understand what's going on with your body and your physiology. Well, I had to do that again. You have to do it every 5 years. And so my SOCM, my medic, came up to me. He's like, "Hey, your dink on your HAPS." He's like, "All you got to do is go get your chest X-rays, and then we'll deploy. And while we're overseas, we'll say, we'll show them the X-rays and just say, hey, we haven't completed it because the next course is you weren't able to make it." I was like, "All right, easy enough. I'll go get my X-rays." I go down to get my X-rays. The guy snaps a couple shots, and he looks at it, and he's not certified to read the scans or whatever. But I remember he looked at it. And then I was like, "Oh, am I done?" He's like, "Let me take a couple more." And and I was like, "Okay." So I took some deep breaths, and I gotta remind you, like, I'm running 5.5 minute miles. Like, I'm running not as much as you are, but I'm at least at a minimum, I'm running 13 miles a week, at least. And that for me, that I could data dump all my stress. I could run. I could feel the breeze, hear the quiet. Like, that was like my go-to, and I was a runner. Like, I lived up to my name.
Yep.
And everyone knew that. They're like Dash always runs. I never smoked. And when I look back at him, he had this face, like this concerned face on him. And I remember it was this little Asian dude. Not to say all Asians are little. I'm Asian, so I can say that. But this little Asian dude, and he's looking at my scans. He's like, I'm not certified to like look at this." He's like, "But it just looks different to me." I was like, "All right, cool." And I'm thinking in my head, it's like, yeah, it's probably the biggest lungs you've ever seen because I'm a stud.
Yeah. And
so I go home, and the very next day I come to work, and I get there at about 9 to go do my self PT. I'm doing my run. I did a couple of lifts, and I get up to the locker room to take a shower. And my team leader is walking by, and he stops. He's like, "Dash." He's like, "You gotta get in this right now." I was like, "Dang it, what did I do?" It's like, I probably messed up. I get in the office, and I got a command master chief. I got a couple of OICs there, and I got the command the command surgeon and the corpsman there. It was like a whole room of
Wow.
people, and I'm sweaty. I'm in my PT gear, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, look, we don't think you're gonna come on this deployment. And I was like, why? It's like, well, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And they're like, well, we found on your X-rays, they found um, they didn't call it tumors. They said they found some I don't know, some abnormalities is what it was. They found some abnormalities in my chest cavity. And he's like, and you gotta go get second recommendations, and you gotta do this and that. It was like, my lungs. It's like, what was wrong with my lungs? Like, what did you guys see? And basically, I had 3 massive tumors on my lower middle lobe. So for your viewers, in your lungs, you have 2 lungs, and your right side, you have 3 compartments in your right side, and you have, am I doing that right? 2 compartments on the left. You have 5 overall compartments, and so 2 compartments of my right lung had these growths on them. And boy, that started a whole train of. Dude, I remember once I got the news, I walked out of that room. It wasn't any later than like 10:30 in the morning. And I'm a strong man of faith, strong man for the Lord. Great relationship with Him. My family's never been better. We're plugged into a church, got a great community going. And I walked out of that office, and I went straight we had a huge climbing wall at the command. And I put my harness on. I climbed to the top of the wall, and I'm looking over Virginia Beach. And I'm looking at the ocean. I don't even know what's going on, right? I don't know if I have cancer.
Yeah.
I just know that they found something. And I just fear, just tons of fear, just enveloping my whole body. And in a blink of an eye, I'm thinking of like my kids getting raised without a dad. I'm thinking of like, is my life insurance in plan for my wife? Like, is that enough going to be to pay off the mortgage or the house? Like, is everyone going to be set? Like, I'm already thinking about dying, right? But I'm not even dead.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what I have in here. And so I'm stressed, dude. I'm so stressed. So that very same day, by 1:00, I'm at Portsmouth, and I meet the lung specialist. And the lung specialist, he calms me down like so well. He's like, listen, he's like, I'm a born and raised guy from San Diego. Like, I've been in California my whole life. He's like, I know you guys train, you guys blow up stuff and down at Pendleton. He's like, but all that soil has fungus in it. And every certain region in the country has different types of fungus. He's like, a lot of times that fungus will get in your lungs and it'll grow like this little spore, and your body will kind of fight it and encapsulate it, and it just stays there. He's like, I got 4 of these things in my lungs. I was like, oh, like, well, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I blew a bunch of stuff up in San Diego. I was like, well, cool, man. I was like, he's like, you're too young. You're 29 years old. There's no way. And he told me this, like, there's no way this is cancer. Like, you don't smoke. You're in great physical condition. So because of all these things, X, Y, and Z, I was on a very low risk, right? Very low risk. I'm like, sweet. He's like, but I got to do some tests. So he shoves this camera up my nose into my right lung cavity. And then that camera also has a claw on it. He's just clawing at these tumors and grabbing them and like taking off samples. And I'm watching the whole thing on the camera. I'm like laughing. Like, whoa, that's trippy. That's my lung. Every time I take a breath, you can see it expand.
Wow.
That's nuts. And so I come home that day. I was like, I'm telling my wife, I was like, look, they found some stuff, but the lung specialist told me, like, I'm in good hands. I'm a super low risk for cancer. My wife's like, there's no way this is cancer. Like, there's no way you have cancer. You run every day. You're great health. You eat healthy. Don't smoke. I was like, yeah. It's like, I know, I'm fine. And I get called back to Portsmouth on Monday, and the thoracic surgeon that got all the samples, it came back inconclusive. He had no idea what they were. So now I go and see a thoracic surgeon, and the thoracic surgeon says, before I cut you open, I want you to do what's called a needle biopsy, where a CT guided needle biopsy, where they lay you down in a CT scanner, and they get this long ass needle, right? I'm talking long. And I want to say it was a 16 or 14 gauge. So it's fat. It's a fat needle. And they go in through the back and they jam this needle in. And here's where it gets super trippy, right? So I'm laying on this table, and I can handle like a decent amount of pain. I'm not so much of a wuss. But I remember laying there, and I can feel him drive. I feel his pressure. It's kind of nagging. And he stops and he's like, all right, we're in place. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Thank God it's over, right? Like, that sucked. He's like, now what I need you to do is I have the needle placed right on the outside of your lung where one of the tumors is. And I need you to take a deep breath and inflate your lung to push the needle into your lung cavity so that I can get a sample of the tumor. He's like, I can't push this into your lung because your lung's going to quiver and it's going to spasm out and I'm going to miss. But if you breathe into it and keep breathing, it'll be a straight guided punch and I can get the sample. I was like, yeah, man, I'll take a deep breath. And I remember doing it like an arrogant asshole, but it's like, yeah, I'll take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And I went, and I took this big breath and I had a pain I've never felt, that I felt this extreme sharpness. Like I actually felt my lung being punctured.
Yeah. That sharpness was a big needle.
Yeah. I felt it, man. And right as I felt it, all my air was like, ooh. Like God, I couldn't inhale into it. I was like, ooh. He's like, I know. He's like, I know it's gonna hurt. He's like, your lung doesn't actually have nerves on it. He's like, but inside of your lung is where you can actually have nerve receptors.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to punch through that outer wall. And he's like, it's gonna suck. Long story short, you did about 10 punches. I did about 10 of these breaths. And he could never get it. And I was laying on this table and I started coughing blood onto my table. And I have like an anesthesiologist like forcing all these drugs in me, and she's looking at me. And I have blood just pouring out of my mouth. And I'm talking to the doc like, did you get it? Did you get it? And she's like, I think we have to stop. Like we're done here.
Yeah.
And the doc's like, look, I tried my best. He's like, I can't get a sample. And I was like, doc, I'm spitting blood on the table. I've got 3 tumors in my lungs. Like, you got to get something.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm already jacked up. I'm bleeding. It's like, you've already done the damage. We've done the damage together. I was like, just get in there. Just like how we stick each other with IVs. You're going to miss a vein. Just do it, man. Just get it. She tries a couple more times. And I don't know this for a fact to this day, but I think he kind of cold-heartedly lied. He's like, okay, we're good. And bandaged me back up. And so I've got all these punctures in my lung. And all of a sudden I started getting like this pneumothorax, or like my chest cavity started filling up with the air. And my lung wasn't able to inflate because I had all these punctures in my lung. So I had all this air leaking into my cavity. So I had a tension pneumothorax. So I go back to the hospital the next day, having trouble breathing. And my thoracic surgeon tells me, well, the next option is I have to crack or cut you open. So I have an incision that comes just under my nipple line. It goes all the way across to my back. He's like, I have to cut you open, basically crack one of your ribs to get in my tool. And I'm going to cut the tumors and I'm going to take them out. He's like, I guarantee you I'll get the tumor. He's like, cool. He's like, but here's the thing. He's like, you're probably going to be under for about 8 hours. He's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tumor off. I'm going to send it down to a lab while you're under anesthesia. And the lab will be able to tell me if it's malignant or not, if it's cancer. He said, if it's cancer, we'll remove your lung. And if it's not cancer, we'll sew you back up and you'll be good to go. And I was like, well, that's some pretty good odds, I think. And, I'm still thinking about what the lung specialist said. Like, there's no way it's cancer, it's some type of fungus or virus or something. I was like, I don't want to mess around with this thing. Like, I got kids. If it is cancer, I don't want to miss it. I was like, let's do it. And I can send you all these pictures if you want to do like captivating posts, but I have all the pictures of pre-op and post-op and me with gaiters on, walking to the ICU with chest tubes in and just trying to have fun, as much fun as with it as I could.
Yeah.
Like I remember walking around the ICU butt naked just to give the nurses a show. Like it's just the type of dude I was. But I remember going under and then waking up in a holding room right after surgery. And in this room, there must have been 6 or 7 other dudes that just came out of surgery. And they were screaming and it was like, oh, like this moaning agony, pain. I don't know what kind of surgery they had. And I woke up and I was like, did they take my lung out? And I'm trying to breathe. You have this big chest tube in me. I got a penis catheter in. I'm got an oxygen mask on. I'm like, it's like, okay. Like I'm breathing. I'm freaking out. The nurse comes by and she's like, on one scale, 1 to 10, how much pain are you in? And I took another breath and it just hit me like 10 out of 10, like highest pain scale I've ever been in. I was like, dude, I hurt bad. And she's like, well, yeah, we broke your rib and cut you across your entire thoracic cavity. So all your intercostal muscles are destroyed. And I was like, yeah. So she loads me up with Dilaudid and feel a little bit better. But I kept asking her, like, do I have my lung? Did you guys cut my lung out?
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not the doctor, so I can't tell you. So I get wheeled into the ICU, and my doctor comes in. He's like, I got good news, I got bad news. And I'm like, shit. He said, the good news is we got the samples. We got, that we needed. We got samples of all the tumors. He's like, I couldn't cut the tumors out because they're, I don't know why he didn't. I can't remember. I was probably on drugs or something. But he said, I sent all the samples to different universities across the country. He's like, but we don't know what they are. He's like, so I can't tell you if it's cancer or if it's not.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, what I can tell you is some of the top best people in the country are going to look at it. And you're kind of an anomaly because you're healthy, you're young, you don't smoke, you really have no reasons to have cancer. So he's like, I wouldn't worry about it. And I was like, okay. So things got interesting. So the very next day, this general surgeon comes in and he pulls my chest tube out. And I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about chest tubes or how long was supposed to be in ICU after surgery. He pulls my chest tube out because I stopped draining. There was no blood coming out of it. And it was clear. And like, I'm gonna get sent home. He's like, yeah, you seem to be stable. Your breathing is fine. Like everything seems to be good. I'm gonna send you home. And he's like, but anything comes up, any complications, come back to the hospital. So I go back home and I'm sitting on my couch and I'm watching TV. I remember I was watching like this vampire sitcom thing on Netflix where it was like a comedy of vampires and how tough their life is actually like. And I'm kind of giggling and cracking up. Well, I have to take a leak. And I get up on the couch and every movement I make, excruciating. Like I'm talking like the type of pain where it doesn't even hurt anymore. You just are worried that you're going to pass out.
Yep.
Like this pain is, and that's my only concern. I was like, oh my gosh, like every movement I make, it just buzz like I think I'm going to pass out. It's like, that's not good. And I get to the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror. I straight up look like a character off of Twilight, like this shiny, glistering, pale yellow piece of death. Like I just looked so bad, jaundice. I looked at my eyes and they're like all like yellow looking, veiny looking things.
Dang. So
I take a leak and I'm kind of like freaking out. It's like, man, is this how bad I look after surgery? It's like, this is nuts.
It's just normal. Yeah.
This is normal. This has got to be normal. I'm sure they do this thousands of times. And I remember the one thing that saved my life was we do what's called TCCC, and I know you've done it too.
Yeah.
And it's triage care. So you learn about ABCs, airway, breathing, circulation. And I'm thinking to myself, I know that jaundice eye color is bad and pale skin, clammy. I better check circulation on extremities. So I grab my fingernails and I start looking for flashback in my fingernails. And I'm in the bathroom, mind you, so I'm like leaning on the counter and looking at my fingers, nothing. And my fingers are icy cold.
Wow.
And I'm doing this and I got no flashback. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. And I was like, I might as well call 911 because I feel like I'm going to pass out. So I call 911, ambulance arrives, they pick me up, and I don't know much about like healthcare or health services or insurance. So I give them my military ID. I was like, hey, I'm active duty. And so they drive me 45 minutes from my house all the way back to Portsmouth.
Yeah.
There's Chesapeake General right there. There's Chesapeake General from my house, which I should have went there.
Yeah.
But I get to the hospital, and now I'm in the hospital in that stretcher chair, right? And I'm still conscious. And I remember I was under like this palm tree in the waiting room with everyone there, like people coughing, people stub their toe, you're at the emergency room. And I'm laying there in this stretcher, just arrived from an ambulance, and this lady's like talking to the lady at the front desk. And my best friend, he was a EOD officer. His name's Steven Johnson. And he's out of the Navy now. He's at med school up in Dartmouth. But at the time, he was living in Virginia Beach. Well, my wife called him. My wife was taking care of the kids. She's like, Dash is at the ER in Portsmouth. Can you go there and check on him and make sure he's okay? Just a coincidence that my surgeon that actually did my lung surgery, his name was Steven Johnson too. My buddy Steve shows up. He sees me in the waiting room and he tells me, he's like, you were in the stretcher and you were looking up at this palm tree and you were just blowing, like I was blowing like spit bubbles. I was like popping bubbles and just like trying to stay with it. and he grabbed the cart and pushed me into like right past, opened the door, and got me through the emergency room waiting room and put me into a room that had nobody in there. So
Yeah.
he just took a room, put me in there. This nurse walked by. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "You, I need you to start an IV. I need blood pressure. I need this and that." And he's pretty savvy. Like he was just going through his, he was trying to get into med school, so he was doing all these tests. And I
Yeah.
mean, he's pretty smart. But anyway, he's commanding all these nurses around. The nurse is like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm Stephen Johnson." You're like, "Oh, Doctor Johnson." And so I'm laying there, and I'm kind of playing around with it. I don't realize the extent of what's going on. And this is crazy, man. Like this lady walks into my room, and I look at her, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Dash." And this lady was she was the dive medical officer on one of our ships while we're deployed overseas.
No
So,
kidding, man.
so I deployed with her, and she saw me laying there, and she's like, "Dash," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on, doc?" And so she's like, "Oh, we're gonna take care of you. Don't worry." And what I didn't know was what they were gonna do. They took my blood pressure. My heart rate was almost at like 180. So my heart was just pounding, and
Mhm.
my blood pressure was so low. So of course they started bagging me with fluids and everything. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And they did one of the worst things you could ever do to someone with low blood pressure is just force them up full of ketamine. So they come in because I'm in excruciating pain,
Yep.
super uncomfortable. And she's like, "I'm going to take care of you. Don't worry." And boom, flashes me with this ketamine. And I got my wife. My wife's in the room now. I got my buddy Steve. And all of a sudden, all I could see was this.
Mm.
Like I was sunken in this deep hole, no pain, but just terrified. And I could hear my wife. My wife would come into view and she'd like say something, and she'd pop back out. And my buddy Steve would pop in. And I remember shaking my head like, "This isn't good."
Yeah. Yeah. Looking through a
Uh,
toilet paper tube, right?
Dude. And so they wheel me out of that room. They take me to go get an emergency CT scan. And what they found out was I had 38% of my blood leaked into my chest cavity and was starting to push on my heart. And so basically, I was bleeding out internally, and I was completely anemic. I was in full anemic shock, but I was still laughing, like I was just joking around with people. So within that hour, I went straight into emergency surgery, and they drained out all the blood, and I didn't have to get a blood transfusion, which is pretty sweet. I'm very thankful for
Yeah.
that. But now here I am. I have no idea what my tumors are. I'm now anemic. Um, and when I wake up in the ICU after the second surgery, I have a chaplain standing over me from the command, and my wife's outside the room. And this always gets me like a little choked up. But I remember that I'm looking at the chaplain, and I'm a man of faith, I'm a man of God, and believe in Jesus Christ with all my heart. But I remember the chaplain, he puts his hand on me. He's like, he explains to me the extent of what's going on. He's like, "Look, you lost a lot of blood, and your stats are dropping like radically." And he's like, "I want to pray for you, and I want to pray for your children." And he starts asking me. The part that I remember the most vividly was he asked me how I wanted what ambitions do I have for my children? Like, what do you see them growing up to be?
Yeah.
Your oldest son and your youngest son, like, where do you see them being in life? um, he said something that bothered me. He's like, "How do you see him being raised?" I was like, "What do you mean? How do I see him being raised by their dad?" He's like, "I'm gonna raise them." And I was like, and I was telling him, I'm completely like, I'm so drugged up. And I was telling him, I was like, my kids are too young right now for me to even understand the capacity of what they're going to grow up to be.
Hmm.
Like, I've got so much more time I have to spend with them so I can nourish them and raise them up to who they want to be, not who I want them to be. And then he told me, he's like, "Well, I don't know if you're going to have that time." And I looked and I was like, "Of course I'm going to have that time." He's like, "This is nothing." He's like, "Okay, well," so he ended up praying for me, and he left. And then my my preacher from my church came, and he starts praying over me. My wife comes into the room, and of course they prayed with her, so my wife knows more about it than I
Yeah.
do. My wife comes in, and she is just, oh, it was so painful to see my wife that way, because they basically told her that her husband wasn't going to make it. Like, this might be the last couple times you get to see him.
Dude, I mean, how do you feel about that, Dash? Because I mean, was that the right thing to say in that moment? I mean, I mean, obviously that guy was, they were just being real with you guys, but I mean, gosh, how do you freaking process that, dude? Like when somebody straight up tells you, the chances are you're not going to have that time. Like, how do you, it's just mind boggling how you were able to just maintain, your, I don't know if you want to call it courage or just your strength when somebody's standing over you, hitting you with stuff like that. That's unbelievable, dude.
Yeah. But the thing is, we've been told that our whole lives, even me. We've been told we're not good enough. We're not going to make it.
Yeah.
You might as well quit. I've always been told that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I've been told that from people who don't understand, like who I am or who you are.
Good point, brother.
And I took it as a challenge. Actually, that rage. I think all special forces guys should have it. Probably do have it in them, but you get that fire that burns inside of you when you see an obstacle or you see someone getting hurt. You see something that that you're supposed to go do.
Yeah.
And nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing will stop that drive. Nothing. Like, you've heard about our brothers that. I remember a good friend of mine, and this happened not too many years ago. Buddy Kyle, he got shot right in the face, like right in the face, right next to me, like straight through the mouth, blew out on the ground, done. And you're at night looking through tubes, and you're just like, holy shit. And within 2 hours, he has ace bandage wrapped all around his jawline. He still has his helmet on. He pops back up, grabs his 416, and starts providing Overwatch.
Yeah, that's it, brother.
That's the caliber of people that we hang out with. And I wish I could claim like I'm that type of guy, but I've never been shot in the face, and I don't plan on ever getting shot in the face. It's not ideal, but when I see people like that I'm surrounded by, I'm challenged to live up to those expectations. If Kyle can bounce back from his circumstances and still do what he's supposed to do in all, like I can't even imagine. And then I go to free fall jump master with the guy. He's sitting right next to me, scars everywhere down his neck. And he's like looking, he's like, what'd you get for, number 57? We're like cheating on this test. I was like, I got B. He's like, this class sucks. He's like, dude, shut up. You got shot in the face. Like, you can't talk to me right now. So I have a chaplain, I have all these people praying over me, telling me I'm not going to make it, how they want me to raise my kids. And I'm not taking it, man. Like, it's not something I was going to swallow. It's like, I'm going to make it out of here, and I'm going to raise my kids, because I never got a dad, and they're going to have a dad. I guarantee it. And that was it. And then my wife came in and she smacked me around too. And she told me I'm not going to die, and told me I don't have time to die, and I've got too much stuff to do. And we prayed together. And I remember her prayer was really a lot more powerful than any of the chaplain or preachers. But she didn't pray for me to recover. She didn't pray for me to ultimately get the strength and walk out of the hospital. We prayed for God's will to be done and not ours, and what God has for our lives. And we also said, like, we want to be a beacon of his testimony. We want to share his gospel as much as we can. And we just asked for guidance and clearance and for peace of mind to know that his hand was in everything.
Yeah. And
we accepted it. That's the thing. We knew his hand was in everything, but we accepted his will.
Yep.
And that, I mean, my wife motivates me more than I think anybody in the world. And
she's a strong woman, dude.
She's a strong woman. And she, I started walking around that ICU 3 days later, completely anemic, like just a total mess. And I walked out of that ICU a month later. I was home. And I wish the story got better from there, but it didn't. Because right when I got home after living a month in the ICU in Portsmouth, I got a phone call from Duke University about my tumors, and they found out that it was malignant, and I was labeled with stage 2 adenocarcinoma, which is lung cancer. And so that started a whole new process where I had to drive down to North Carolina, consult with him. They couldn't do the surgery on me, but they removed my lung because I had no blood. And the chances of me making out of that surgery are really rough. So he's like, I need you to heal for another month get your blood levels back up, take a bunch of iron supplements, and then we'll put you under and remove your lung. So now, after going through everything that I already went through to losing all my blood, now I'm in recovery mode to go back under the knife.
Yeah. You got a whole month of this